Hello everyone, it's Joe here from DRAFT FPL, and we are back with another Draft FPL Team Preview video. In particular, we're looking at the fixtures coming up, any potential gems from each team, and any players we might want to get a shot of. If you enjoy this content, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet. I've got 4 more teams coming up today. We're doing Fulham, Leeds, Leicester and Liverpool. Let's get stuck in. Okay, so in alphabetical order, as always, we start with Fulham. Let's take a look at the fixtures. The fixtures for Fulham are pretty good. They rank 5th on the fixture ticker over the next 5 and over the next 10. The next 3 fixtures coming up are Palace away, Saints at home, and then a double game week in game week 19, which is Leicester away, Chelsea at home. So Palace away is just an okay fixture. I'd say it's not amazing, but it's definitely not bad. Saints at home in 18 is definitely a good fixture, and a double game week. The games specifically aren't that easy. Leicester away is tough. Chelsea at home is obviously tough as well. But anytime there's a double game week, just that extra chance for points definitely makes up for it. So the next 3 are really good, and even after that, I think they do toughen up just a little bit. Newcastle, Tottenham and Chelsea are the next 3 following from that. So that does definitely get tougher. Then it's Forest, Brighton, Wolves, Brentford to round out the next 10. So definitely the next 3 game weeks are good. Then there's 3 that are a bit tougher, and then 4 that are very good. And I find generally this is the best kind of fixture run, when they've got chunks which are good, and then a chunk which is bad, and then a chunk which is good, because it means you can hold a player for a few weeks, then drop for a few weeks, then bring them back for a few weeks again. So I definitely think Fulham are a team to keep an eye on, and a team to probably invest in, especially over the next 3, because I think they're 3 sets of fixtures that you can't really ignore. When we look at the players specifically, the ones I've picked out who I think are going to go up in value, I've gone for basically what I think will be the 3 behind Mitrovic. That is Willian, Wilson and Pereira. I just think they are the best 3 players to fit that system. We all know Mitrovic, he's not, I don't think he's changing in value at all, really. I think he's just kind of as he was. We know he's going to tick over with goals. His goal involvement for Fulham is so high that he's just a good pick, and someone that will just keep going all season long. But the 3 behind him, I think this is actually quite a big improvement on what they had earlier on in the season, when we saw the likes of Bobby Reed and Cabano as well. I think Willian, Wilson and Pereira have a lot more class, and I expect Fulham to do reasonably well. I don't like the defence, to be honest. I think the defence is poor, but I do think they'll score goals, and it's quite a nice team to dip in and out of when the fixtures are good, because they're going to be attacking and on the front foot, which is nice to see. The players I think are going down in value, as 2 that I just spoke about. Cabano's got a long-term injury, so he's out for the time being. And Decordova-Reid, he could keep his starting place, but I personally think his time is kind of on the way, to be honest, because I just think Willian, Wilson and Pereira are all significantly more talented players than him. And I've got Adarabioyo in there as well. As I said, I don't like the defence anyway. He also looks like he has now lost his place, so that's kind of a no-brainer avoid from me. The next team we're looking at is Leeds. The fixtures are not good over the next 5, but they do improve a little bit after that. The next 3, City at home, Newcastle away, and then West Ham at home in 19. So the next 2 are really bad. City at home is terrible. Newcastle away is really tough at the moment as well. West Ham at home is not too bad. It's Villa and Brentford rounding out the next 5, which aren't bad. And then they've got a reasonably okay run: Forest, United, Everton, Saints, and then Chelsea. So it's not a terrible run of fixtures for Leeds, but the next 2 specifically are definitely like stayaways. I don't think anyone really wants to get involved in a match against City, and Newcastle are a really difficult team as well, especially at St James's Park. So I don't think it's it's kind of nice because it gives you a little bit of time to see how they're probably going to line up for when the fixtures do get a bit better. And as we'll see on the next slide, I do think there are decent options for Leeds, but it will be nice to see which ones we can really take a punt on. So looking at those, it's a similar story to Fulham, to be honest. I don't like the defence, but I am definitely interested in these attacking midfielders. Sinisterra back from injury now. He's training with the team. He's going to be fit for game week 7, we hope. So we might finally see a return on some of that potential that he's had throughout the season so far. Somerville was in great form before the break and had really burst onto the scene. And then we've got Nonto, I think is the pronunciation. He has really only played a handful of minutes in the last couple of games, but has really impressed me. And I think he is actually a really talented boy. And I think we're going to see him do bits for Leeds. Not guaranteed that he's going to start for sure, but I think if we get the idea that he's going to, he's definitely a good punt. And he has the added bonus that he's listed as a forward, which is great because there's such a dearth of good forward options as always. Speaking of forwards, the first player that I have got on my red list is Patrick Bamford. He's just had a minor operation on his calf. He may still be fit for game week 17, but it gives me it's DCL vibes. It's one thing after another. He can't stay fit. And I think we just need to factor that in now, that he's probably all for the rest of the season not going to get a consistent run of starts. And if he does, then he is a good option. But I think banking on that is probably fool's gold. The next player is Aronson. I really like Aronson as a player, and I do think he will be in the starting lineup for the time being. But with these exciting options back fit again, I do think there is potential for him to be either moved deeper or rested or just have general reduced minutes. So, playing 55 minutes instead of 90, coming off at half time when he's not playing well, things like that. And that is when the value starts to creep down without you really noticing, because those minutes do add up. And I do think that Aronson may well suffer from this. Strike, I spoke about the defence. I'm not interested really in the defence unless the fixture's really good. But it does look like Firpo might be back and ready to take that left back spot away from Strike as it stands anyway. Next on the list then is Leicester. Pretty poor fixtures for Leicester over the medium term. They've got a little run which is quite nice, but on the whole not great. Newcastle at home in 17 is pretty tough. Then they go to Anfield, which is a very difficult fixture, of course. And then in 19 it's Fulham at home, which is obviously a really good fixture. 16th over the next 5, 16th over the next 10 as well. Like I said, it's a real mixed bag with some tough fixtures in there. I will say game week 19 is Fulham at home, then it's Forest away in 20, then it's Brighton and Villa in 21-22. So they do have 4 games in a row there, which is quite a nice spell, and that might be a really good time to invest. After that, though, they do then have Tottenham, United and Arsenal back to back. So it's kind of similar to Fulham. They have these chunks of good fixtures and bad fixtures, which is definitely not a bad thing. Moving on to the players I am looking at, I think it's now definitely time. I called it earlier in the season, and I think now I'm confident that Daka is on the up and Vardy is on the down. I do think there'll be times maybe when Vardy starts, when there's a quick turnaround, and Vardy will obviously come on and steal minutes. But I do think Daka has overtaken him in the pecking order now, and I do think he's actually a really good pick as well, especially with that little run of fixtures I spoke about earlier. If he can do well against Fulham, Forest, Brighton, and Villa, then I think that could be a good return. Barnes, I just really like Harvey Barnes as a player. I think he's finally absolutely nailed down his preferred position on the pitch, and the returns are coming for him, and Leicester attack in general seems to be flowing quite well. Harvey Barnes is an excellent finisher, and that it really does show in the data as well. I've also gone for Tielemans as well. He had a bit of a disappointing World Cup, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for Leicester or for us. as owners of him, because he has got a lot of time back with the team. Little mini pre-season for Leicester, and I think he might come out all guns blazing, hoping to try and get a move next summer. So, definitely a player that served a lot of people well in draft fantasy, and someone I'm definitely keeping an eye on. The other two I've gone on the red side, other than Vardy. Amati, I think, will probably lose his place now. He's been pretty consistently playing at centre-back, but I think it will be Fass and Evans who are back fit and I just think superior defenders, to be honest. So Amati may well lose his place, and I've also put Ward as well. I think that run of clean sheets that Leicester had really bumped them up the defensive data tables, but I do think there were some seriously jammy clean sheets in there, and I don't expect that to continue. And I think Ward will regress, not quite to the state he was in at the start of the season, but somewhere in the middle. Finally then, we have got Liverpool. Some nice fixtures coming up for Liverpool. It's definitely a good time to be a holder of one of their big assets, and I think it's a good time to try and trade one in, and there are a few that I'm really, really keen on. So the next three fixtures: Villa away, Leicester at home, Brentford away, all really good, especially I think from an attacking point of view. I think they're really nice fixtures. It's then Brighton away, Chelsea at home are the next two after that, and then it's Wolves, Everton, Newcastle, Palace, United. So they avoid the really tough teams. They avoid City and Arsenal, who are the two toughest teams at the moment, so they don't play any of those in the next 10. They've got quite a few good home games, and I just think it's just a nice run of fixtures to have, and the rankings kind of represent that as well. 7th over the next 10, 8th over the next 5. Just a decent set of fixtures, and definitely time to invest in some of their players. I'll start with the Reds first of all. The most boring one, Tsimikas. Robertson's had a full break, hopefully gotten completely over the niggle that's been concerning him for the whole of the season so far. I expect him to be absolutely fit, firing, and at the top of his game, and I don't expect to see Tsimikas getting too many minutes for the time being. Diaz back in full training at the start of December. I think he did one session and then has done something to a knee ligament, which is now he's now had surgery on, so he's going to be out until March, which is very, very tough. I think there'll be a lot of managers out there that have a really difficult decision to make with Luis Diaz, because it's a long time to hold on to someone, especially how the game weeks fall. You're looking at missing a lot of game weeks there. Also, Jota looks like he's had a complication with his calf injury. He's definitely going to be out until at least February, which is quite, that's probably, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I think that's about at least 7 or 8 more game weeks, because the fixtures do come thick and fast. So that is a real concern. But that does lead the way, it leads the opportunity for Firmino, Darwin and Salah to be almost pretty much nailed on, because I don't see any way that any of those three miss out. There's the odd occasion that Carvalho might start, but I think he's actually currently got a little bit of an injury as well. So is Harvey Elliott. So I think Firmino, Darwin and Salah are just fantastic picks at the moment. There's very, very little danger that you're going to miss out on minutes. And I just think they are absolute pick of the bunch at the moment. I've been sending out trade offers left, right and centre to try and get the likes of Firmino and Darwin. It's been falling on deaf ears at the moment. No one really seems to trust me in my home league that anyway. But yeah, great picks, and definitely way up on the rankings, especially Firmino. We kind of thought he might be out of it by the end of this season. We thought his minutes would be declining all year. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case through injury concerns to other players. That's just how it's going to be. Okay, that concludes my team previews for Fulham, Leeds, Leicester and Liverpool. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this content, please do hit the like button. Comment if you've got any of these players and you're interested in a bit more detail, and I will be sure to respond. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you're new, and we will see you next time.